Counter-Strike 1.6. If you were a gamer in the early 2000s, there's a high chance you played Counter-Strike 1.6.
I tried to sneak through the door, man.
It hit the gaming world like a storm, and it all started with two modders. Back in 1999, Min Lee and Jess Cliff took Half-Life and turned it into a multiplayer shooter. At first, no one expected a simple mod to change gaming forever, but update after update, Counter-Strike kept growing, until version 1.6 in 2003, which cemented its place in history. There were other big shooters at the time, but CS 1.6 stood out because of its simplicity and depth. One life per round, tight maps like Dust 2 and Nuke, unique recoil patterns that demanded precision. Every match felt like a mix of reflexes and strategy, almost like chess, but with guns. And here's what really made it blow up, the LAN cafe era. Rows of chunky CRT monitors, cigarette smoke in the air, and friends shouting every time someone hit a headshot. Counter-Strike wasn't just a game, it was a social event. For a lot of people, this was their first taste of competitive gaming, long before Twitch, Discord, or even YouTube existed. Then came the rise of pros. CS 1.6 laid the foundation for modern esports. Tournaments like Electronic Sports World Cup and Cyber Athlete Professional League filled arenas. And legends like Heat On, Spawn, and Forest became icons. Suddenly, it wasn't just about fun. It was about pride, competition, and prize pools, where a single mistake could cost thousands of dollars. At its peak, CS 1.6 wasn't just a shooter, it brought people together, created friendships, and gave memories that still stick with players decades later. And the craziest part, it all came from a mod. Counter-Strike Condition Zero.
Okay team, follow my command.
This is basically the weird middle child of the Counter-Strike series. The game that was supposed to take CS to the next level, but instead became one of Valve's strangest releases ever. The story behind it? Absolute chaos. Development started in 2000, but the project bounced between multiple studios. Rogue Entertainment, Gearbox Software, Ritual Entertainment, Turtle Rock Studios, and finally, Valve. Each studio left its own version. Each one got delayed, and by the time Condition Zero finally launched in 2004, the world had already moved on to CS 1.6. So what did we actually get? On paper, it was just Counter-Strike but with a twist. It had updated graphics, new maps, and for the first time ever, a single-player campaign.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Yes, this version features a single-player mode. You played missions with objectives like defusing bombs, rescuing hostages, and unlocking stars to progress. But if there's one thing Condition Zero truly nailed, it was the bots. Turtle Rock Studios created AI teammates and enemies, and these bots later became a core feature in CS Source. The problem, to hardcore fans, Condition Zero felt outdated the moment it released. CS 1.6 was already faster, sharper, and dominating the competitive scene. Meanwhile, Condition Zero's campaign was short, its visuals were inconsistent, and it never really found its own identity. For many, it just felt unnecessary. Still, Condition Zero left a legacy. The bot system carried over into future games. The Deleted Scenes campaign became a cult favorite, and it stands as a reminder that even legendary series like Counter-Strike can fumble when development gets messy. Today, it's remembered as the odd detour between 1.6 and Source. Counter-Strike Source.
Get out of there, it's gonna blow!
Counter-Strike Source was the sequel nobody could agree on. Some said it was the future, others swore 1.6 was still king, and while it didn't dominate esports, Source quietly built the foundation for the future of Counter-Strike. Released in 2004, Counter-Strike Source was the first big game on Valve's Source engine, the same tech that powered Half-Life 2. That meant better graphics, realistic physics, ragdolls, and new water effects that blew players' minds at that time. Gameplay-wise, it was still Counter-Strike, terrorist versus counter-terrorist, but the gunplay was different. Recoil felt lighter, movement felt weird, and veterans from 1.6 noticed immediately. And here's where things got complicated. Casual players loved Source. It was flashy, modern, and perfect for LAN cafes. But pros, they stuck to 1.6. Tournaments like World Cyber Games and Esports World Cup kept running 1.6 for years, leaving Source without a true competitive scene. But while esports ignored it, the community took over. Source became famous for its custom servers, surf maps, zombie escape, gun game, jailbreak, even roleplay servers. All exploded in popularity. For a lot of players, CS Source wasn't about competitive play at all. It was about hanging out on their favorite server with friends. This is where Source really carved its identity. Instead of being remembered for tournaments, it became the ultimate sandbox for creativity, and that culture of community servers would continue straight into future CS. Counter-Strike Source lives in a strange place. It never replaced 1.6, and it never became the new CS, but it kept Counter-Strike alive during a critical transition, introduced a whole new generation to the franchise, and showed us what the Source engine could do. Counter-Strike Global Offensive.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
CSGO launched in 2012, developed by Valve and Hidden Path Entertainment, and at first, it wasn't loved. 1.6 and Source veterans thought the gameplay felt clunky, the guns unbalanced, and the maps oversimplified. For a while, it looked like CSGO might actually flop. But Valve didn't give up. Updates kept rolling, better balance, new maps, and constant tweaks. The turning point came when the professional scene adopted it. Major tournaments finally switched from 1.6 and Source to CSGO, and with them came legendary players. Slowly but surely, the community accepted it as the new face of Counter-Strike. What happened next was history.
Comes once again, the first base is a Dren. He's gonna hit the ground there as Cold. Oh! What? A jumping double for Cold! What is going on right now?
CSGO became one of the pillars of modern esports. With its mix of simplicity and insane depth, it produced unforgettable clutches, rivalries, and international tournaments called majors. Teams like Fnatic, Virtus.pro, Navi, and Astralis turned into household names in the gaming world. But here's what really made CSGO better: the skins.
Please, something good! Please! Nice! I'll take it! I'll take it! Karambit Rust!
In 2013, Valve introduced cosmetic weapon skins. At first, they were just fun collectibles, but soon, an entire economy was born. Players could trade and sell their skins for money. Some, like the legendary Dragon Lore Op, sold for tens of thousands of dollars. CSGO wasn't just a shooter anymore, it became the game that turned digital cosmetics into a global market. And it wasn't just about competitive play. CSGO added new modes like Arms Race, Demolition, and in 2018, even a full-blown battle royale called Danger Zone. While competitive was always the heart of CSGO, these modes gave casual players a reason to stay and made the game more accessible than ever. Love it or hate it, the skins economy kept the game alive for more than a decade, funding tournaments, fueling hype, and creating an entire culture around customization. But CSGO wasn't perfect. It had its problem with cheaters, balance drama, and plenty of controversy. But without it, Counter-Strike might never have stayed relevant. Instead, it became one of the most iconic shooters in history. Counter-Strike 2.
Oh yeah, that is pristine.
In March 2023, Valve announced Counter-Strike 2, calling it the biggest technical leap in franchise history. Fans were promised improved visuals, responsive gameplay with a new subtick system, and even smarter smoke grenades that reacted to the environment. On paper, it looked like Counter-Strike reinvented for the modern era. CS2 moved to the Source 2 engine. Maps were rebuilt with new lighting and materials, grenades became physics-based and volumetric, and weapons got overhauled animations and audio. Subtick servers were supposed to make every bullet feel precise. It sounded like the future of CS. But when CS2 finally launched in September 2023, things weren't so smooth. Many beloved CSGO features like community servers, custom maps, and popular game modes were missing. To a lot of veterans, CS2 didn't feel like a bold evolution. It felt like an unfinished replacement.
My disappointment is immeasurable.
One thing Valve absolutely nailed is the skins. Every single CSGO skin carried over, now looking even better under Source 2's lighting. For the massive skin economy worth billions, this was a relief. Despite the rocky start, CS2 is still evolving. Valve is patching, updating maps, and slowly bringing back missing features. Pro tournaments are already shifting over, and with time, it's starting to feel more like the true successor to CSGO. Whether CS2 becomes a worthy evolution or just the most controversial chapter in Counter-Strike history, that story is still being written. Counter-Strike Neo.
Monster kill!
In 2003, Japan got something the rest of the world didn't, Counter-Strike Neo. Developed by Namco with Valve's blessing, it wasn't on PC. It was built for arcade cabinets. You'd sit down at a full machine with joysticks, mounted controls, and even a player card system that saved your progress between sessions. But this wasn't just a Counter-Strike on an arcade stick. Neo got a full sci-fi anime-style makeover. Characters wore futuristic gear. The HUD and menu looked straight out of an action anime, and even the announcer was way more dramatic. It had the bones of Counter-Strike, but dressed up for Japan's arcade culture. It stayed exclusive to Japanese arcades. PC gaming wasn't huge in Japan back then, so Valve let Namco reimagine CS for a market where arcades were king. Outside of Japan, the game never released, and over time, the cabinet slowly vanished. Neo never became a global hit, but it stands as one of the weirdest, coolest what-if moments in Counter-Strike history. Counter-Strike Online.
Godlike!
What if I told you there was an official Counter-Strike that most Western players never touched, but millions in Asia grew up on? Released in 2008, Counter-Strike Online was co-developed by Valve and Nexon, built specifically for Asian markets. Instead of a one-time purchase, it used a free-to-play model with microtransactions for weapons, cosmetics, and character skins. Perfect for the PC cafe culture in Korea, China, and Southeast Asia. At its core, it was still 1.6, same shooting, same maps, same movement, and experimental game modes that the mainline series never had. The star of the show, the zombie mode. Players could get infected, hunt survivors, or defend against endless waves. It blew up in popularity, so much that for many Asian players, this was their first experience with Counter-Strike, not planting bombs, not rescuing hostages, but fighting zombies. CS Online even spawned sequels like Counter-Strike Online 2, but outside Asia, it stayed mostly unknown. Still, for years in PC cafes across the region, this was the Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike Nexon.
Ludicrous kill.
Released in 2014 on Steam, Counter-Strike Nexon was developed by Nexon in partnership with Valve. Think of it as the global version of Counter-Strike Online, but now free-to-play and available to everyone. At its core, it was still CS 1.6, and again, with zombies. Players could jump into infection-style PvP, where humans fought to survive while the infected hunted them down, or team up in co-op PvE missions, blasting through AI zombie swarms, giant bosses, and scripted scenarios. And Nexon didn't hold back on content. The game had dozens of new guns, unique characters, futuristic maps, and even anime-inspired designs. What started as a tactical shooter suddenly felt more like an arcade action game wearing Counter-Strike's clothes.